Hi everyone, Ashley here and welcome to another video on my YouTube channel. Today's speed card making video will be showing how to make these two different happy birthday cards using supplies from Hero Arts and a really fun background inking technique that I've sort of dubbed Waterfall inking, and you'll see why as the video goes on. And this technique I actually got from a blog post that I saw on Instagram. The blog is called Dell & Arty and I believe that the artist's name is Daniel West. And I'm going to be linking his post down below so that you can go check out the original and where I got the inspiration for this card. So without further ado, let's get into it. I just layered two different pieces of purple tape onto the top and bottom of a white panel just to act as almost handles so that when I'm inking up, I can hold on to that purple tape and not be touching the inky part of the paper. I added a layer of water onto the paper and now I'm just adding ink from these little ink paint pots. These paint pots actually came in a My Monthly Hero kit, so they had a card kit that came with these ink pots, and there's a yellow one, a purple one, and a red one, which I'll be using all of them today. But you could really use any types of paints for this technique. So what I did is I added a bunch of red paint to one side and a bunch of yellow paint to the other side, and then I sort of just let them drip down by constantly adding more water. So I would add paint, add water, let it drip, add paint, add water, let it drip, kind of turn it back and turn it around, and do that on both sides. And as you can see, I'm just using my heat tool to kind of set the paint in place so that I feel like it looks nice. And then that's how you get that sort of waterfall effect. You can see that example here again, in case that was a little bit too fast for you. I'm going to be doing the exact same thing here, but with purple and gold this time. So as you can see, I'm starting with purple. This time I didn't actually add water to the panel first. You can or you don't have to, it's totally up to you. And then you just add enough paint and water until it starts to drip. Then you turn it over and you add the other color of paint, so in this case gold. And again, add paint and water until it starts to drip. And then you just go back and forth until you get enough and you cover the panel. So now I'm adding more purple, then adding more gold, and just turning it up and down and up and down and adding water until they start to drip into each other nicely and create this cool pattern. So once you're happy with it, you can add heat and this will sort of set everything in place. And I just kept going back and forth with the two different colors until I felt like I was happy and like the colors were dark enough. One thing I will note with this is that you do seem to get a lot of paint kind of going and building up along the edges. So what I would advise if you're doing this yourself is to cut your card panel a little bit bigger than you'll end up needing it. And that way, if paint does build up around the edges, it won't matter because you can just cut them off. So that is how the final card panel comes out, and I think this technique just looks really, really cool. It almost looks like fire kind of building up from the background. So the next step of this card is to stamp out the images that I'm going to use, and I kept it super simple because I really wanted the focus to be on the background, so I only stamped out 2 images per card. And here I am using my Copic markers to color them in. Just FYI, I did stamp out these images with a Copic-friendly black ink, so I used Fawn Jet Black ink. And I stamped them onto Neenah Solar White cardstock, which is a really crisp white Copic-friendly paper. So I'm just going to let the music play while I finish the coloring here. So feel free to sit back, relax, and enjoy the coloring. And if you don't want to watch the rest of the coloring, just skip ahead in the video and you can see the rest of the card come together. Okay, so off camera I went ahead and cut out 2 pieces of white cardstock with the castle die that comes as part of this set, just to act as sort of a grounding base to these cards. And we're going to start by completing this first card here with the red and gold panel. And for this card, I'm stamping the sentiment directly onto the panel using Versamark ink, and this sentiment says "Have a magical day," and this also comes as part of the same stamp set. I'm popping the whole card front onto some foam and then taping it down onto a white card base. I'm then gluing down this white castle die cut piece onto the bottom there, and just having it sort of blend into the background. I can then glue down that front seam piece with the castle that is cut out of white cardstock directly onto the background, and I'm using some liquid glue for this. The little castle-y bits took a little bit longer to stick down, so I just made sure to add some extra glue behind them, and then I used an acrylic block to weigh it down for a little bit until they were really stuck down. I then used some foam squares to pop up the two little images. For this card I'm using a wizard and a unicorn, and I'm finishing it off with some iridescent sequins that I'm using some liquid glue to just glue right down onto the background of the card. So that is the first card completed. And you can see when I rotate it in the light, those paint pots actually have some nice shimmer to them, and the sequins really glow as well. So I love how this card really does look quite magical. For the second card, I decided to just stamp the sentiment on the inside of the card and keep the front sort of more simple. So I glued down some pearlescent vellum as a border, and now I'm just gluing down that castle piece, which I again just cut using that die that comes as part of the die set associated with this stamp set, and I cut it out of white cardstock. Again, similar to the other card, I'm popping that whole panel up onto some foam and then just taping it right down onto the card base. I forget if I mentioned it, but this card base is not white, it's actually some nice gray cardstock. And I just did that to add a little bit of contrast. So again, similar to the first card, I'm just using some foam squares to pop up these little critters onto the front of the card and give them a bit of dimension. And for this one, it's the knight and the dragon. So on the inside of this card, I stamped out the sentiment, which is "Happy Day of Thy Birth." And again, I'm just going through and adding the same iridescent sequins as a little bit of an extra added sparkle. So you can see that this card also really shimmers in the light when you rotate it. You can see that the paint pots really do have a very nice shine to them. The pearlescent vellum also shines, and then of course the sequins are super shimmery, which I love. So those are the final two cards for this card video. I hope you enjoyed watching this video and will have fun trying this technique at home. If you want to see more cards like this, go check out my Instagram profile, which is linked in the description down below. And in case you didn't know, I do post videos here to YouTube at least once a week. So if not before, I'll see you next week. Thanks for watching. Bye!